All right, Panther Lair, let's talk about the ball screen defense of John Hugley. Now, I tweeted out during their game against the UNC Wilmington Seahawks that I felt John Hugley was doing a really good job defending ball screens, and I was going to discuss that later on in the week. That's going to be included in my breakdown of their game against UNC Wilmington. Now, if you checked out my breakdown after the game against the Citadel, then you know that I talked about how I think Pitt has changed their blueprint in how they want to defend ball screens. Rather than hedge 95% of the time, now what they're going to do is they're going to do a little bit of show and recovery, a little bit of drop, but basically they're going to have the ball handler's defender go over the screen, try to stay connected, while the screener's defender drops, or they show and recover, or they kind of ride out the ball handler a little bit. So a little bit of everything there, and a big part of why they're able to do that is because of John Hugley. So let's break that down here. Now, what you're going to see is Hugley is going to be late to what ends up being this ball screen because he kind of gets caught up in this congestion, which looks to be designed, involving Nate Santos and his man. So Hugley ends up going around. He ends up being late to the screen, but rather than try to get all the way back up to touch and probably get blown by here, he establishes a drop position. Now, it's pretty popular at higher levels for sure to see players, ball handlers particularly, snake out the drop coverage here to look for maybe a mid-range jumper or wait for something else to develop. But actually, the help defense is all in pretty good position here. Hugley is able to show and then shade this way to take away both anything doing with the screener and take away any type of potential shot from the ball handler. So good job here. Now he's going to be involved in a really high ball screen, but good recognition by Hugley that it's going to be so high that there is no reason to be up to touch with this screen. So again, establishes somewhat of a drop point, but is able to get low, stay athletic, and is able to ride the ball handler out until Jeffers is able to make his way back in front. So good job here, recognizes Jeffers is coming back. He's going to go and recover. Really good job early in the game. Now here's another thing, establishing drop, another example. What's going to happen is this ball screen is happening pretty far away, right? Like this ball handler is not necessarily next to the screen. So rather, again, Hugo recognizes this. He's going to leave a little bit of room here, establish that drop point, and now Femi is fighting over. And Hugley does a good job of kind of shading under, preventing kind of a mid-range shot, preventing a drive. Now, the one thing he could work on is when the screener flares, Hugley doesn't always contest right away. Sometimes he'll be a little tentative, maybe thinking that the big is going to drive. He tries to break up a pass. I don't even know if that was possible, but he does close out here with some urgency and forces a missed shot. Now, this is another example of Hugley being able to ride out the ball handler. So one of the things he's pretty good at, and I really want to highlight this, we're going to go back a second here, is you're going to see Hugley is going to kick over this right foot. That allows his teammates to navigate off-ball screens really well too that involve him. And this is a subtle thing, but it's really important because the fact that they're not going to get screened here, his teammates are going to have easy navigation. You have to assume there's good communication here. It's one of the reasons I think they've been successful in this situation. So you see his foot kicks over there, allows Burton to slide through. Now, as another ball screen happens involving Burton, you're going to see Hugley's going to try to give him a little bit of room. He's going to slide back a little bit. That should allow Burton to slide through. Now, Burton opts to go over, but again, it's just another small thing John's doing right now that's pretty impressive for a guy who really did not play a lot last year and is just 3 games into his sophomore campaign. Now, as the ball screen happens here, Burton's going to go over. Hugley does a really good job showing here, but then because Burton kind of just doesn't get over quite fast enough, Hugley's able to just keep riding out the ball handler as Burton just keeps going over the top, and they ultimately just ride this guy out to the baseline and force a turnover. Really good athleticism here by John, getting a good base. Now here he does a good job of recognition. You're going to see again my example of Hugley leaves room for off-ball and on-ball type of screens to allow his defenders on his team to kind of navigate through. But what happens here is Oladapo gets caught on 2 staggered screens that happen on this side. Hugley sees that and just completely switches on to the man that receives the ball. So here Hugley's going to leave room. If he gets up in this guy's face here to pressure it, no reason to pressure a guy like this far away. Santos probably has to go around. This could be a real quick handoff with a ball handler going downhill. Instead, leaves that room for Santos to navigate. Oladapo gets caught on those staggered screens. Hugley recognizes it, probably good communication going on, and just rides this out, forces an air ball. Now here we go with some show and recovery. Now this is a good example because it involves two of the primary guards on the team. So this first one's going to be Femi. Now Femi does a good job stepping over this here and really staying connected. But Hugley's just going to show a little bit, then sink back and recover. Shows, recovers when Hugley gets back in front, and a really good tag in there by Burton as well. Now this one involves Burton. Burton doesn't get screened, fights over immediately. Hugley shows. Femi's probably going to tag in here and recovers. Now Hugley probably should step over here to provide some help side D. Gets fortunate this is a blown layup, but does get the rebound. And here we go again. We're going to see Hugley is going to be involved in the drop screen. He's going to show here. Femi's going to try to fight over. It's going to show, but Femi is late to go over here. And this is one of the things that he's doing a good job of. Femi is not getting over this screen, so John knows he's going to have to hold a little longer. That's going to put pressure on Jeffers to kind of tag in here, but Jeffers is one of the things he does really well. And so he's going to kind of pick up both, splitting, and then Hugley forces this shot, ultimately an air ball. Will this hold up in ACC play against better athletes, better ball handlers, and better shooters? I don't know. But is it something that Hugley's done a really good job of so far through 3 games? Absolutely. And it's really a pleasant surprise on the season because I think a lot of people look at his offense, his passing, all of those things. But really, his ball screen defense probably stands out to me among anything because I'm not sure that this is something that anyone thought was going to be in his bag. And it's, again, really changed the way Pitt's been able to defend ball screens this year. So kudos to John for putting in the work to get to this point because his read and react has been very good, very seamless, and definitely look forward to seeing more of this as this season progresses.